As I know you and I have been wanting to get together, and the whole purpose of this is I wanted to get insight into this new book that we're going to talk about that you came out with. Uh, the invitation to the community to kind of get together and do these meetups. So, in all of your struggle, you're still being productive. You're still expanding and using your energy in, I think, a forward kind of way, which can help a lot of people. And that's why I really wanted to push you. And I know we all think we have to be perfect, and we wait for a certain time to be ready to talk, or and we've agreed there is no perfect time ever. We're
Yeah.
clear here. We're kind of working backwards. um
That's perfect for what I was just thinking about, though.
what is it?
I was thinking because how you say through all my struggles, you think I've still been being productive. And so the thought came to my mind that, there's a part of me that doesn't see that really. But then I had like the insight of like the analogy of like the tree and the roots. And it's like I've been so drawn to going deep into the roots and trying to figure things out there. And
Hmm.
so, but then when I look on a surface level and above, and like I don't seem to be growing big and tall and bearing all this fruit and, having success and like traditional success and all that stuff. But then, um, like in the roots areas, I've done so much work to actually have awareness and insights and understanding into so many things where that is very much very necessary and like powerful work. But it's like now I'm just in a place where I need to connect with others, um, so that I can, like, what's it called? Like in my, I guess, version of like sprouting,
Yeah.
sprouting and breaching the surface.
Yeah, and kind of
Um,
appreciating where you are and giving yourself a little grace and appreciation for the work that you have done, and being
yeah,
a little more in each moment to allow what you've been appreciating to bear that fruit.
yeah, it feels like almost like I've been doing a lot of like behind the scenes work.
Yeah.
Like if there's like a big production and there's the person who's on the stage and everything visible and stuff, but then there's somebody in the back, helping out in the way that they can. It's like
Yep.
I feel like I'm kind of playing that role.
And is that
Um,
okay? I guess then you ask yourself, now you're conscious of that. Is that a role that I'm comfortable with? Or at some point, am I ready to go more in the forefront? And is that where you are, where you're trying to decide?
I feel like I'm kind of like at the threshold of more so just wanting to find people where the work that I am so naturally drawn to, I want to find people who want to do it with me. Like the what I would call like being like a root worker and
Yeah.
like diving into all of that.
Yeah.
I want to find a community of people who are interested in all of that rather than be, like you said, on the forefront, be in the process of
Yep.
it all.
Yeah.
And then I just want other people to be in the process with me.
Yeah. And you're speaking exactly to where we are with seeking nervous system regulation. And for those people that have been labeled, whatever you're labeled just because of a dysregulated nervous system, we're seeking high support, flexible support. We want collaboration, and we want low pressure. So the society that we know we've gotten kind of conditioned into is the exact opposite. It may seem that school and work and the democratic kind of world around us is supportive, but it's very competitive, and it's very high pressured. It's very work, work, work without rest. So the whole Western culture has been just go hard. And if you're resting, maybe there's some stigma attached to it. Like, what are you doing? Like, or maybe we learn that growing up, that these messages that we get. So in any event, though, as a result of that, we have this DSM, or we have a whole big menu of labels, diagnoses. And then the other thing that happens is, well, we think we have a problem, and then we get labeled and pigeonholed into this diagnosis. And you wrote about in your book about the gift of being sensitive. And often people that are highly sensitive have this need for control, right? And you're already in your own head, already telling yourself, oh, I should do it, I shouldn't do it, I should do. So you're burning out, and maybe you have to mask to show up socially, and you're just exhausted physically and mentally, emotionally overwhelmed, and then there's nothing left in your tank. And I think this is the basis of all disorders. A nervous system that is dysregulated, which is just overwhelmed with sensation, overwhelmed with feeling and emotions, and not having the grounded physical capacity. How do we get where we are right now?
I think that the expectations that we have for ourselves do not align with our biology for
Okay.
most people.
Yeah. Expectation being, give me one expectation that we might
Well,
have.
for instance, let's say there's a young man that he's expecting himself to go to college, have a part-time job, maybe have a girlfriend, have friends, have a social life, have like a social media personality, like all of those things, have his role in his family, all of that, juggling all of that at once, the expectation, and then um judging themselves the whole way of it's not like good enough and things like that, or that's for to so like as a human is that that seems against our biology of where I think we need a lot more rest and introspection, whereas like people aren't just going and laying in a meadow for an hour in the middle of the day. Like most people, I do sometimes, but I'm alone in that. And I look around and nobody ever is around. Like nobody else is doing this really near me anyway. But I do it because I feel like I need to, and I'm instinctively drawn to
Yeah.
doing things like that. Whereas other people, I think they kind of freak out and buckle under the pressure of all the expectations,
Yeah.
but then they seek out maybe medications or more and more energy drinks or whatever it may be that helps them kind of just cope
Yeah.
again, just cope, get through it.
And
And
you
then I do the same thing though, but with food in different areas where I'm feeling stressed and overstimulated, like you said, I turn to food. Feeling uncomfortable, I'm feeling stressed, whatever it may be, like I have a need that needs to be met, but I don't see a way of meeting it. Stress or overwhelm or overstimulation, and then not understanding any other way to like navigate it on my own. And then so it's like eventually I'll turn to just soothing or coping with the pain or discomfort or whatever it may be. The wall is I can't go further on my own. If I'm not going to just choose the coping mechanism, the only other path would be to now reach out for somebody else's perspective or their help. I reached the end of the road, the dead end, where the only way to move forward is to proceed like in a sense of community. Literally can't cross the threshold alone, and it's like a magic door that you can't walk through unless you're with other people, and it's like that's where I'm at you
and
know
when you get to that point where you say you have this realization that I've reached the end, how do you know that?
The way my mind works is I actually visually and viscerally feel and see that. Like I have a very like creative mind and stuff, so I will actually feel and see imagery and stuff. Like see myself and feel myself and my energy and stuff like up against a wall of like, and like maybe esoterically if you think of like the hermit path or like being in isolation, that's not supposed to be forever, you know it's supposed to be part of the some people's journeys. To answer your question, I feel like I know that I'm there at that point because I see it and I feel it.
So if you see it and you feel it, are you saying You have to call somebody for support because you are not able to make another good decision. You need the help to make a better choice, or you need the comfort of another safe other just to hold that space for you. What is it that you're needing at that moment?
I'm trying to bring it down to that because I was thinking more expansively, like regarding like the really bigger picture of life, like thinking that like I'm in a place where I can't progress in general without others.
Okay.
But you are speaking more specifically, which is good because sometimes I have trouble with the moment and the specificness and not like the huge bigger picture
Yeah.
of like how to make it practical
Yeah.
of just what's the next step kind
Right.
of thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the next step for me, if I'm to not just loop in repetitive cycle, is I would have to call somebody or meet up with somebody, get some, be very honest and vulnerable about exactly what's happening with me, and then be able to admit, like, yeah, that's what's going on, and I have no idea what the F to do at all.
It's
Like,
it.
what do you think?
But we have a mind that is supposed to be very co-creative, very creative. And we're here to be productive. We're here to figure out what it is we are gifted in. We are here to figure out where we want to put our energy. And in all the years I've been doing this work, I never knew what I know now by doing this somatic work and shaking off all the stuff that I've inherited, that I've been feeling and holding. And when I feel lighter, I have more capacity to be present, to be in a meadow, or to be in the eye of the storm and know this too shall pass because right here, right now, internally, inside me, I am safe no matter what is around me. And eventually, if I can feel safe inside, I can start to interface and recognize that the outside world isn't as dangerous. I could start to interact with the world because from my interoception, I am safe enough. And then I can engage more socially without the fear of threat continually.
I think that it's really important for the that safety feeling to be like cultivated in the whole body. Because I know like you can in the thick of it, start like repetitively telling yourself like I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, or somebody might say, look around, there's no threats, you're safe, you're safe, you're safe. But that's all kind of mental.
That's
But
right.
then if when you start like maybe you look around, but then you wiggle your toes, you look down at your toes, or you really get yourself much the different methods that get you very much back like in your body
Yeah.
completely and actually perceiving all your senses and stuff. And it takes time to get there, but when it happens, that when you feel like viscerally safe, completely safe, that's where life starts feeling magical again,
And
you
that's
know.
happened for you.
Yeah, I've reached points like that, but I think that there's like it's hard in like you said the modern way of life and society and everything and expectations. Um, but underlying, I think there is like uh in a really amazing like divine design of our anatomy and biology that we really haven't cracked the surface on. Like I really don't think so. Even like a lot of the ancient and teachings and all of that, coupled with the new modern discoveries and things like that, I really think there's missing pieces. I think when I say like divine design, I think I mean the how we interact, like when you're outside and you have like your bare feet on the ground, or when you actually got some real sunlight and hydration, like the co-creation of the fact that you ingested water and you have sunlight now, and maybe you have like people around you, like all of those things, when that's in place, like that's why I say like the divine design, like when all those things are in place, it's like our bodies are these magical vessels to like have the adventure of a lifetime. But when like we're cut off from a lot of that, maybe inside too much, you haven't been outside in days, or not really in the sunlight, or you're just eating a lot of things that aren't even actually food technically,
Yeah.
um, then that divine design is like a dead battery,
Yeah.
or like a zombie, kind of like where you are still like alive, but you're not, you're almost in like a background mode of like autopilot until you reconnect with the divine design
Yeah.
of everything that's necessary for our biology to function correct. So it's like it's complicated and simple kind of at
Yeah.
the same time,
I
but
like
it's
that.
very complicated. It's very complicated technically in the scheme of the way that life has become, like the expectations and stuff. People don't really have time to wake up and sunbathe for 20 minutes, and like do breathing exercises or hug and cuddle, or it's like more so they have to get up, they have to have their coffee, they have to get ready and go.
Work, it is simple, but it's not easy. So the work, like we have, again, expectations, the word work, the word relax, these connotations around words, just semantics, language is a whole nother thing that is an agreed upon thing that isn't truly our true nature, right? So the true nature of just I am that I am that I am just here. I am light. I am sound. I am a part of nature. I am present.
But if you say am I, uh or wait, no, that's, I say in my book, I am I. The other side of that would be am I. Both are necessary. I just wanted to add on to the divine design thing. I think another thing that, at least for me, and I think also many other people need to embrace is the divine design of like the whole collective planet, but also much more humanity, is that there's people who have their specialties, people who are drawn to things, but we're increasingly becoming more independent. So somebody else might be so drawn to like a certain work, and if they had the community and things supporting them and helping them, they would really be able to flourish with that work. And then other people who needed it can come to them, and then they have their flourishing and they have their work and their contribution, and so forth and so forth. So somebody doesn't have to be like their own philosopher, their own doctor, their own chef, their own this, their own that. Like they don't have to figure it all out on their own and do it all on their own. They can go to the person who is like the expert at this and the expert at that. And if like again with the divine design aspect, if everybody is truly like connected and flourishing and nourishing each other and everything, then that's where you would see all those different blossomings and bloomings of all the different things. And then when you needed something, you would know where to go and who to go to. And it wouldn't be a matter of like, oh man, I'm really on my own with this, or I have to reinvent the
All this
wheel.
because we're talking about trust. And how can I
Yeah.
have trust? As first and foremost, I can't relax. What am I relaxing for? Well, I'm not relaxing because I'm copping out. I don't want to work, but I need to learn how to let down and to rest, to be in touch with the signals, the cues, the information that this beautiful vessel, this bodily temple that I've been gifted with, is giving me. And when we're always comparing, despairing, rushing, working, going based on expectations, running on shame and guilt and everything below the heart's operating. We're not safe. We're connected, looking for love in all the wrong places. And I'm powerless because I'm not safe and I'm not connected to anything that is stable. So it's everything is relative. And one minute I feel like this, the next minute I feel like that. And it's overwhelming. So we stay just physiologically, biologically like this, and just in that posture that is in that survival protect mode constantly. And just that by our nature alone, we're going to burn out. So when we learn, ah, personally, like you said, viscerally, ah, I can relax. And when I do so, in this very moment, I have the experience that it was okay. I was okay. And when I can do that again and again, and it starts with other, we're here in this world to be with others. We're, if you look at the studies, the monkeys, Harlow monkeys, they were offered, and they're hungry monkeys, a bottle with milk or a little, another like cuddly thing to hug, or a human. They want hugs. They want the human contact. And that's how we're designed, our divine nature, right? So we are going far away from what we are inherently like designed for: togetherness, collaboration, connection. Um, so it can only run its course so long until all of us are completely burnt out.
One of the ideas I had was for the gatherings group was like my first instinct, initial idea was just cloud watching. You know, like people like me and people with autism and everything, like all you have to do is show up, be in somewhat close proximity with your own blanket, your own yoga mat, whatever it may be, whatever you're comfortable with, sheet, right on the grass, whatever. And we're in together and we're just laying there quietly, breathing, whatever, watching the clouds so that we can start that process of letting go,
That's it.
relaxing,
Let go.
realizing,
Mhm.
like, and starting to trust and embrace
Yep.
that there's people around. They're not going to hurt you. They're not going to kill you. Like, we want to work together. We want to make community friendship. We want that. But that's like, feels like a good actual first step. Because, like you
Absolutely.
said, we can talk about it all we want about
Yep.
we have to relax and we have to, but then how are we actually
Doing it.
how do you do it? Like
Yep.
somebody watching this, what are they going to do?
So,
Sitting and just like partnering up and for a short time, just making eye contact and like just breathing, starting slowly and gently. And because for some people that might be overwhelming or like really induce fear or
I believe
anxiety and
so.
things like that.
Hmm.
But have it be an environment where if you need to go lay down or if you need to walk off a little bit and do some laps or circles or do whatever helps you an inclusive kind of accepting atmosphere where you can do that if you want to
Yeah.
if you need to shake if you need to jump up and start shaking around and dance or you need to start making some weird noises or do whatever or like just have that like have it be open
Yeah.
to exploring what's necessary to get
Yeah.
to a place, where it starts feeling safe and trusting others and,
Yeah.
that actually healing the nervous system.
When if you go to a counseling, if you in the IOP, the PHP, the residential, it's a laboratory, right? We are taking nature and we're putting it under fluorescent lights indoors, and we're trying to replicate what we have right at hand free. We could be in counseling for 100 years, and it's a very expensive process, especially for those that cannot afford it, don't have good insurance. So it's all dictated by the system. So when you invite people freely to come together safely with the same shared intentions. And then you're doing what EMDR, right? Eye movement desensitization. That EMDR is when we would move our eyes. Well, why do we do that? Well, because when you move your eyes, you're engaging both hemispheres of the brain, and we're not staying stuck in the fear brain. Well, when you're looking at clouds, you're doing just that. When you're outdoors, you're looking around. The color schemes, green, very healing, blue of the sky. So, just as a byproduct, people don't even have to know. And that's why I love somatic therapy, sound healing, light. It is freely gotten. Now, once you start to do it and you do it with others like you want to start doing, and it starts to work, well, then you resurrect in the human being curiosity to want to learn more, to want to expand more because it feels good. And now you might ask about the how this works, or you might say why. But when I started this talk with pathological demand avoidance, or they're the kind of cousin to that, where you're very logic driven, everything has to make sense, it's all control, and it's all based on anxiety. You don't, you want to know how and why because you're paralyzed. The difference is when you get out and you're with others and it feels good, the how and why are exciting. And when we do what you said, learn how to relax. And I know I'm safe here. Oh, then I can recognize what's coming. And rather than resist it, fight it, feel bad about it, think I need help about it, I can respect it, right?
Yeah.
I can learn to engage with myself, all those compartmental aspects of myself, and say, you were trying to protect me. Thank you. But right now, I don't need you to protect me. Let's just stay here and hang out a little more. Like trying to get relaxed, let go, and entrust enough with this instrument so that we can have the inner eyes, inner sight to feel that we are aligned with it. And that to me is when your instrument can sing in tune. It could say, and just feel in tune. And then when you tell me you're ready for, you feel like you've hit a wall, well, if you're singing in tune, if you're humming, if you're doing your thing, you know, right here, right now, in this moment, just within my own intimate moment, it's okay. I'm good. I'm okay. Well, everything around me, whether it's my desk, my dog snoring, the people, when you said it gets magical, well, I'm coming more from this, not from this. And my heart, your heart, is more magnetic. And we're allowing the freedom of that which is our soul essence to be regulated or awakened so that we now start to sing in a way that others, typically others see you doing stuff and they're like, what's she doing? Ugh. And they want to criticize you because they're afraid. Don't leave me. Don't be different. Don't whatever. But then they see that you mean no harm. They see you're doing good work. They see your intention is pure. And matter of fact, when they come to your work, your meetups, they feel safe. They feel good. They feel accepted. And then they're like, there's something to this. I like being around Madalynn. She feels good. She feels safe. It's this harmony that we're looking for. It's what we call this resonance. So you're singing in tune, and the others have an opportunity to hear. When you were talked about, we started out with thoughts, to see that maybe their thoughts are a little out of tune, and they're not seeing it in a scolding way because they're already doing that to themselves, but you're creating enough spaciousness to be accepting and to listen and let them hear gently that they're a little misaligned or out of tune, and they could hear your example, feel your example, and learn naturally how to sync with that attunement. Like you're essentially a tuning fork for the others to then just what we call entrain back to the way it should be, the natural order. And when we just feel it and it's authentic, it happens. That's the magic. But if you overthink it,
Mm. Love your analogy of like the tuning fork
yeah.
because I think that a lot of people who are very sensitive, it's almost as if they are going through life and they're being hit with like these energetic kind of bubbles from other people, or whether a loud bus or train just went by, or somebody they're just walked into the room and they're starting to talk to them. Sometimes it literally feels like you're being hit with like energy and stuff like that. But then, like you said, like with being like a tuning fork, it's like suddenly you're like vibrating with that energy that you're being receptive to. But if I'm or whoever's experiencing this is like very good in their own note, like their home note, like you like to say, then though they can get hit by all of that and they'll just harmonize it. Like they'll just observe it, harmonize it, not necessarily be threatened by it because they're rooted and they're good in themselves. And then it somehow settles things down almost magically. People just feel safe and accepted. And I've had times where I felt really good because people would say that like you just feel so grounded, and I just feel so grounded and safe with you. But yeah, I really, really love that analogy of the tuning fork because in my creative mind, I see that as like a reality of like, and like on the opposite end, when I'm not doing so good, if I'm starting to get hit with a lot of the different energies and I'm not in harmonizing at all, then suddenly I'm just being rattled around, and I'm just like, and it's too much. And then I have to go feel like I have to go isolate or go like I have to get away from it all or escape it all.
Mhm.
But it's really just a matter of that divine like collaboration and
Mhm.
design of the connection of everything. I just have missing pieces that aren't, in their proper
And it's all beautifully
place.
perfect, just the way it needs to be. If you, when we get a story about it, I just need
Yeah.
to do this, or I have to do this, or no, all that we're feeling that is, it's the contrast that's not necessary to feel, and to say that you feel good or to feel bad is to miss the point of this work. We're not here to be captured in the duality. We're here to be at the center point, to recognize that all that is both a mixture. I wouldn't know bad if I don't know good. I don't know what's good if I didn't go through what's bad. Both are necessary. And in the world, I'm going to read the title: Two Wolves, One Cat. Seeing Your Gifts Rather Than Pathology. What is the book about?
Well, again, there's kind of a micro and a macro to it, like a big picture, and then a more specific, like
Yeah.
me as just the person who's writing their thoughts and emotions and things like that, and then the bigger uh theme of the book or purpose of the book.
So I had just gotten into doing sound healing, uh, tension and trauma releasing. I was doing community events. Madeline used to come, take a bus and show up by yourself. And I was like, this girl's awesome. Like, you show up, you're doing your work. And I remember you coming to me, and you could share however you wanted, like, but you introduced me in a way that you offered a label. And I was like, like, wow. It, because we often limit ourselves by presenting with a label. But instead of buying into it, I saw everything that was not that. And I kept wanting to fight for your potential and see you in all of your fullness and not that limitation. And then we got to know each other over time, and you continued to show up and evolve. Then we did for 2 years online. I had the free TRE, and people were coming in from Spain and Italy and UK and from all over, and you would show up and speak your truth, and people were, I believe it was such a beautiful opportunity, a survival kind of. We created a little infrastructure to get through what could have been otherwise a really scary time for a lot of, the people that were on there. And then you continue to evolve. And I know you started, I think, journaling. You were always writing, and I you would read me some of those things, and sometimes you're like, oh, you know, didn't know if you're ready to put it out there. And I understand, because this was exactly where I was. I started my website by writing. It was just a journal. I would put something out and I'd take it back, and I'd be like, oh, like so over concerned, like that anybody really even cared. You know, I was always so critical of myself that I projected it, and I was my own worst critic. So I empathize with your process. And then one day you're like, I wrote a book. And then you showed me, I was like, wow, it gets better and better. Okay.
The back is what the publisher wrote for me, a wonderful lady I was working with that
I
helped
love
me
it.
through the process.
So it says The Two Wolves, One Cat is a raw, lyrical descent into the fractured, brilliant, and fiercely honest interior world of a woman learning how to stay alive on her own terms. Written as a living document rather than a linear story, nothing's linear. This book moves between poetry, confession, spiritual inquiry, and psychological survival. Madalynn May Wolfe invites the reader into the spaces most people are taught to hide: mental illness, isolation, longing, awakening, desire, despair, love, and the relentless search for safety and meaning in a world that often misunderstands sensitivity. And I think this is brilliant: the misunderstanding of sensitivity and depth. It's not a book that explains itself neatly. And I love that, because I always say if I were to write a book, it would be backwards, like the way we started this podcast. Just get into it, and then we can get to the theory later. But it's not a book that explains itself neatly. It howls, it whispers, it spirals, it prays, it rages, and it rests. Key. It explores the tension between darkness and light. So all the duality we talked about, pathology and brilliance, independence, and the human need for connection. Right. So you're speaking to duality, at times tender, at times confronting. Two Wolves, One Cat asks what it really means to heal, and whether healing must look normal at all. So that's what I really want to explore more. And for the readers drawn to this introspective memoir, this poetic philosophy, for this spiritual exploration, and I love this, unapologetic emotional truth, because that's what we're here to do. I mean, half my clients are always saying, sorry, sorry, sorry. I'm like, what are you sorry about? So, this book is an offering, a mirror, a rite of passage. It's not a guide, it's not a diagnosis, right? It's not that label. And it's not, because it's art. And that's what we're talking about. The art of living is what I love to talk about. It's an invitation to witness what happens when a soul chooses. We do have choice, and we can choose rather than stay repressed, anxiety ridden. We can choose expression. We can choose the expression over erasure, right? And then finally, if this is what I want to hear more about. Madalynn identifies as a human alien alchemist, a hybrid, a young shaman with indigenous North and South American roots and European ancestry spanning Spain, Italy, Ireland, and Germany. So this book reveals what lineage alone cannot. Wow, that's a lot to unpack. So, where do you want to take it?
I definitely first want to lay the ground floor of I don't want to pretend as if I'm somebody who figured went and figured out all the answers and now I'm like a source of like I can help you sort of in a big kind of normal kind of typical way or anything like that. I don't feel that way at all. More so, I really feel like I'm still very much in the thick of it. The big part of the expression and the art and all of that is a really big thing that I'm trying to highlight there.
Mm.
Whereas, so many people, they have maybe they have the people that they love, that the singers, or they have their shows they like to watch and their music, maybe they sing in the car or something. But and then they say like, okay, yeah, those are the professional artists,
Yeah.
and I just have my life where I do all these things and then occasionally have a little fun. But
Yeah.
more so, I think it every day should be a little bit more of that, where we're singing and whistling and dancing, and you
Mhm.
don't have to be a professional dancer, professional singer to have that every day in your life.
Yeah. We can give ourselves permission to play, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And just expression in general, whatever that looks like for anybody.
Hmm.
I think, like the one of the all-time best quotes ever is the unexpressed emotions come forth in uglier ways. That's basically like the whole plague of society right now is the unexpressed emotions are coming forth in such ugly ways, whether it's war or pollution or destruction and of all the violence. A lot of it is just we're little kids on the inside that aren't crying when we need to cry, or we're not asking for a hug when we need to ask for a hug, or we're not giving up when we know we're pushing well past our limits, and
And that's
just things
stemming
like that.
again from expectation, do you believe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
then,
where it could take 5 minutes for somebody to maybe stop and say, hey, bro, I really need to talk right now. Can I have a hug and can we talk for a minute before I walk into this office or this doctor room or whatever my profession is and stuff? Like, I need a couple of minutes to lean on you,
well,
like
what's the
something like
difference
that.
then the expectation and pride?
Pride. Yeah, I think that it's hard for a lot. I mean, and then again, the safety and the trust and the pride, the expectation to just like, oh, I should just have all my stuff together, all my ducks in a row, like all the time, or I
Yeah.
don't know. Honestly, I really feel like my book is like a great example of how that is irrational and impossible to expect of ourselves. Um, eh, and even if it was possible, then you're bordering the line of being like robotic. And
Yeah.
do you really want that? Or do you want to be more like the inner child that is, 1 minute maybe they're crying and then they're laughing and twirling and singing and playing and then they're working on building, they're really focused on the Lego set or drawing the picture or doing whatever. And they encompass the full spectrum of all the emotions and the divine design of everything possible. They're living it out every single day. The divine design for me, and it's interesting because we have a little bit of a different perspective where you are like up thinking of like higher vibration and divinity, source, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, whereas my perspective is backwards, sort of like having more of like a faith of like it's inside, like it was
Yeah. Yeah.
put, like we were born with it, we
Yep.
came out of the womb with it,
Yeah.
like encompassing and like a core thing. But that divine design is us. Like I don't think that it's a matter of like choosing it or not choosing it. It's more
It
so that
is.
it's there all the
Yep.
time, and
Yep.
even when um like the divine design, part of the divine design is like when we have symptoms, when we're not feeling good, those are all part of it, like more information. And part of the big limitation is language. When we're experiencing something, we're trying to label it as like, okay, now I'm feeling some tension or I'm stressed or I'm
Right.
that. But the beauty of having like an artistic mind and like more of a shaman like mind is, instead of being in that bubble of the English language, you can open your eyes and then suddenly it's like I'm experiencing like the underworld or heaven, or now this is smoke, or now this is rain, or this is flames, or it's everyday life, but it's very expansive in trying to explain what's really happening. Myself the liberty to creatively express that way and not be so robotic. Whereas the roboticness may have a time and a place that it's beneficial, like in the heat of a moment in like a very maybe corporate scenario where you have to make this sale or
Yeah.
something. And so all of the knowledge that you've downloaded and uploaded into your being, if you can execute it properly like a machine, then it's like you got it. You got that sale, and now next week you're on vacation with your wife, and you're kicking back and enjoying, but so it's like there's a time and a place for whatever. But I do think that it's important I think it's okay to have whatever perspective you want. Like some people think about the ascension, like they're on their way back. Like like there's that quote, like we're all walking each other home or whatever. But I really have like like that rooted perspective
Yeah.
and more of a coming down perspective of like, gosh darn it, like I have the chance of a lifetime to be on planet Earth, and I came from wherever, like I was a spirit and I'm gonna be a spirit again, like, but right now I'm human, that I'm infused with the divine design and spirituality is in me and everything, but I get the chance to be here, to be human, to live, to laugh, to cry, to do everything, and it's all right here, right now. I explore the highs and the lows that feel beyond humanity, like the what we may call divinity and then what we may call devilish or something. Like I feel like I go into both realms out of curiosity and out of desperation and out of like my soul's draw to just explore why I'm here, leading me back towards really just like embracing humanity in general, by saying like embracing humanity in general, but all of us as individuals defining like what that means personally.
Yeah.
Like for you to say I'm embracing my humanity could be different from the guy in another country saying I'm embracing my humanity. It's for everybody, it can be different,
Yeah.
but if it's true and real for you, then it's gonna contribute to the collective in like a positive way. Sometimes people get so traumatized and so polluted and different things happening and the news and everything that they're desperate. They want to reach high and be cleansed and purified. They're seeking that higher vibration. And then other times people are disassociating and kind of in that higher vibration of like purity or almost transparency, almost kind of nothingness, sort of
Yep.
in a way, like just kind of like whatever you want to call it. And then or sometimes it feels like you reach this point where you experience divinity and it's so expansive and so powerful and so loving, but then you have to somehow ground it back into the human experience where you're now it's like you're looking down and you need to wiggle your toes, and it's like you literally feel like you're a fraction or a fragment or a fractal of God, source, whatever, and you're trying to contain it in like a little human body.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes in with this TRE and like I said, literally looking down, wiggling your toes, realizing like, oh my gosh, I have this amazing vessel. It's my job to breathe, to take care of it and figure out how, to live. And it's hard to root and ground
Yeah.
that divinity like in a just practical
Angel.
way.
And Christ says, be in it, but not of it, to recognize he too, Jesus the man, was a fleshly being that walked on the earth, all his senses like we have, but also inherent is this divinity, the divine intelligence, the greater divine mind that realizes what you're talking about. Talk about with imagination and seeing and feeling and the artistic nature. Aren't we co creative in the way that we are? You're gifted with the ability to imagine, to see all possibilities. Isn't it said that everything is possible?
You have to say that um what you said about being in the world but not of it, like a quote, in my book, kind of in the thick of the middle, I say that's blasphemy from my perspective, or just my personal belief. To be in the world and of it is the ultimate challenge of humanity that we signed up for, but we have the amazing gift to like remember and connect and sense the great mystery of, whatever you want to call it, source, God, whatever. but then we chose to be here and to be human and to be of it, to feel dirt and breathe
Absolutely.
air and feel sunshine on our skin and to have our blood pumping and animating us. That's to me, when I think of to be of it, I think of that to be super rooted in the body and to pursue the health and well-being of the body
Yep.
and of the mind, and it's all connected, but it's also not separate from the divinity, the source,
Right.
the cosmic, everything is all connected, and it's just a matter of kind of inclusiveness of everything.
And I agree completely. I don't see that scripture as uh, precluding one over the other. I see it as
Yeah,
when
what does that mean when do you know when people say that? Because a lot of spiritual people do say that, like, I am in the world but not of it, and they say it happily, and then I always like when they say it, it feels like a dagger in the heart for me.
yeah.
And
Well,
I think
because
to myself,
you're trying to be in this world. You're trying to ground. That's your battle. You are trying to ground into this earthly reality so that you can now manifest those beautiful sensitivities, powers, creativity, everything that you're here in purpose to do must be grounded here to allow those first three floors, the connection, the safety, the trust, the power that is inherent within each of us to be fully felt, right? And then our heart is open and we are using these hands to receive continually and to give continually, like Christ hung on the cross at the heart space. It's the point of transformation. It's the transmutation of the lower energies of the survival only kind of mechanism with the higher energies of the heart, the throat speaking truth, the third eye seeing truth, the crown always in connection with and always electromagnetically connected from the above and so below through the head, the crown, and down through the feet. Electromagnetically, there is that energy, the source energy, that plasma that needs to be grounded through the spinal cavity, which is our central nervous system.
I was gonna say, and that's where like the magnetic field,
That's
like of
right.
the earth
Uh,
comes in,
That's right.
where some people look up and think of the holiness as like that pure white light streaming down like through the crown and downward, but then they only associate with that sort of, whereas I see it as that is very much a reality, but then it's as if neither or would exist without the other sort of
Absolutely.
in our way of this life, that when being here on earth, the magnetic field of the earth, I see it as this golden, like pure light, like almost like plasma stardust type, like coming up and through our bodies, and things like that. And then so, but that's real as in like physical. It's physical. It's it's like it can be measured and experimented with, literally coming up through us, like being birthed into us and into reality, into life, and coming through us. And then there's also the
Non-physical.
source, like
Yeah.
non-physical,
Mhm.
spiritual, that we can't necessarily yet like see with instruments or fully prove or whatever. But both of those come together, like you said, in the heart space.
Well, and so to be in it is to be aware that unfairness exists, chaos exists, pain and suffering exist, judgment, all of it. But I still can be in it with a higher, more unconditional, non judgmental kind of we're in this together kind of perspective. I'm saying, like, I can
Yeah.
say we're more alike than we are different. And I'm trying not to judge based on appearance, based on intellect, based on color of skin, right? Based on the money that's earned, the zip code.
So I think it's like you're in the world but not of it is kind of another way of saying like you're in the world but you're not a victim of it, or you're not being absorbed by it of what it is right now. More so, you remember that you came here as love and you came to be love, spread love, whatever you want to call it. Whereas I kind of just have a little bit of a different perspective of like, sometimes I see it as, we came here with that intention for the love and all that. But when we're giving up, like if we're feeling what we would call lower vibration, or anything that we would call maybe negative, if we're like surrendering and like giving it up and trying to like give it away back to the higher realms or the higher divinity, God, whatever maybe your religious beliefs are, I think it's almost kind of like passing the baton and like forfeiting part of your mission. Whereas sometimes we need to do that. We need to surrender. We need to take a break. And it's like we have to, sort of. Or we could, where community comes in, that's where we can solve things more being still rooted in ourselves. Where if we come up, we know we want to be loving, but then when we hit the wall or whatever of like feeling or observing, or there's hate, there's violence, whatever it may be, um, instead of saying like we have to surrender and give it to God or give it whatever, like let's say like, what if we actually let ourselves feel it, like feel the fear, or the other side of the spectrum, like the person who's feeling the violence or the hate or the anger or whatever it is, like if we actually own the full spectrum of emotion and then work together to try to safely integrate and express it to where we're not hurting somebody, but we find a way, like go down that road of finding a way, like imagine somebody who's thinking about harming somebody actually feels safe enough to admit it
Yep,
to somebody. Like they know there's a place they can go to.
I hear you.
Like they know, like, oh, oh wow, I need to go here and tell somebody like, hey man, I'm really thinking about this or that, or I'm really feeling this way. And then we, like in the future, I think this will just be simple, easy things that exist, that they'll be like, oh, there'll be protocols of like, oh, this is how we deal with this. And like, instead of actually doing harm.
When you go into any program or when you meet with a counselor, why I love somatic is we're bypassing the talk and we build rapport and trust, and then when it's necessary we can talk. But if the first thing we're always hearing is, so do you want to hurt yourself, do you want to hurt another, do you want to, and it's like right away you're still replaying the same stuff, and it's all because of liability. The counselors, the place doesn't want to be responsible, and there's so much overshadowing that, what you just said, the inherent, like, this person, I feel safe enough to share, and they're not gonna lock me up, they're not gonna give me more medicine, they're not gonna restrain me, right? There's usually a consequence to being honest in the mental kind of health world. So I hear you saying two things. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to go through all of the emotions honestly together, safe enough? And I also hear you kind of say that you have some type of thinking that if I surrender, just kind of, there's a negative connotation like that. If you give over your will, you're kind of cheating the system.
No, no, I to elaborate, I mean like let's say you're really struggling with one of those emotions or those thoughts and your feelings, but in your religious backgrounds taught you to just like lay down and literally imagine like letting it leave or surrendering it or praying and being like, take this from me.
Mhm.
But and there's times where that feels like the only thing to do. But then what if you're filled with that hate or that fear or that whatever, and you own it and you hold it and you decide, what am I going to do with this? Where am I going to go? Who am I going to ask for help?
Yeah.
How am I going to caretake this? How am I going to take accountability and responsibility for this, rather than just being like, God, you take it, you take care of it. It's your problem now. And I'm going to go off pretending like, I just don't, I'm not dealing with it. I pawned it
But
off.
but I but I get that impression that sometimes your belief is that with God, many people are using it as a way to not take responsibility and feel it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, that a lot of people, I think, in who are very deeply into certain spiritual religious teachings, it's super taboo. If you were to talk about any of the so-called lower negative, what they call negative emotions and states of being and stuff,
Mhm.
it's immediately demonized and taboo, and it's just seen, it's outcasted, and it's in the shadow of society, and it's not really it's a scary place to go because it's still uncharted territory in the bigger landscape of humanity. Many people have gone there, but not many people in the grand scheme of the whole population and throughout history. It's rare that people decide to go to the shadowy place, of the shadow
So
collective.
for many, people are using religion, hiding behind religion, and not really getting to the core of like what we do somatically, like from going from hopeless to hopeful. I say it isn't like why do people commit suicide? Well, they don't find a way to get from hopeless to hopeful logically, linearly in the mind. So they take this quantum leap. So the thing is behind hopelessness is some deep anger most of the time, some shame and resentment and cynicism. And then if we are safe enough, held contained to work through that, oh, that will give way maybe to some deep sadness. And the deep sadness then may lighten and allow some frustration and just work up the ladder to acceptance. And I hear you saying that some people might be spiritually bypassing some of that process.
Yeah, what do they call it? Like toxic positivity,
Mm-hmm.
or like some people will say, like, oh, that's the devil in your ear. Like if you try to vent about anything or something,
Mm-hmm.
like there's bypassing where a lot of people, like in my experience with all the different therapy groups and stuff, a lot of people turn to religion to try to find relief and things like that, but then they end up in a place where they have to sweep so much under the rug, or they feel like they have to, and they because it's like part of the religion for them is like saying, any of these negative things, I have to give it away, I have to surrender it, and I'm just peaceful and I'm just loving.
Mm-hmm.
But then in reality, it's just not the truth.
You talk in the book about the journey of like a shaman without the mentor kind of thing. So, what do you believe you are experiencing, and how has what you're experiencing been affected by labels and how you've been diagnosed or what you're going through in this earthly kind of experience? How are you reconciling the two?
Well, I it's my understanding that a shaman is basically an intermediary
Mhm.
between just the regular human plane of existence and then kind of the mystical unknown realms. Um, Not limited to just like divine, or it can be cosmic, divine, ancestral, dimensional. And so a shaman is just the intermediary that kind of uh, willingly goes into like those places and then brings back information and what they learned and things that end up being helpful. I think labels have really harmed me because my soul is so drawn to that path, to explore it further and further and further. Whereas like Western medicine labels saying that I'm bipolar or schizophrenic and things are telling me that you can't see anything, you can't hear anything, you can't feel anything, you can't sense anything that's not there. You can't think that you're having a conversation with your deceased uncle, or you can't feel like you have like these revelations in the woods. And and it's funny because it's in religion, there all these stories exist as the core principles of people who went on these mystical journeys, and then they worship that and they're so thankful for that. But in modern day, if anything, if you speak to that with a Western practitioner, they say, okay, you need this bag of medications and this extensive therapy to make sure that you stop doing what you're doing.
Mhm.
And it's not okay. You're just crazy. You're psycho. You're psychotic. We need to stabilize you, and you just, need to come back down to reality and reality only. So it's kind of like I'm caught in this weird place of maybe they're right. Maybe I'm just my brain is broken and it's not okay. And I need to try to figure out how to be normal. I need to try really hard to be normal. But even now, in just saying that, it viscerally feels like a, my heart cracks, it breaks, and like my purpose is like, what? No, like for not even a minute, I don't want to go down that road because I spent 13 years going down that road and saying, okay, I'm going to try to be normal. I'm going to try to be normal. I'm going to try to be normal. And it always led to me and ending up trying to take my life or just feeling um the like life had no meaning.
Yep.
And the only reason I'd be sticking around, I would tell people I'm not going to become a family tragedy. And then other times it was so bad that I was like, if they knew how I was feeling, they would put me down themselves, you know? And I
So,
even there was times where I said, Mom, if you truly love me, you would, you know, put me out of my misery. And of course, thankfully, she's a super loving mom. And she was like, no, that's not how it works.
mm, no.
I love you so much I would never do that.
And
Like,
I keep hearing you say, well, I just gotta like come back down to reality. I just have to be normal. And who defines what's real and what is normal? When you tell me this, you said, all right, for 13 years, you've thought my brain is broken.
yeah, that was I was being diagnosed and I was being told it's not okay to feel what I'm feeling, to think what I'm thinking, it was constantly the narrative was that I'm sick, I'm ill, I'm broken. And even though I do think there was times where there was symptoms involved that were leading to what they call like psychosis and things like that. But then there were many times where I had experiences that Western medicine just can't fully understand and explain yet that I don't think should be categorized as illness. Rather, you know, in my mind, they were very much the opposite.
Somewhere along the line, I'm sensing that you didn't jive with the way it was. Where, if anywhere, can you recall in your childhood, or was there something that kind of interrupted your programming in such a way, or was it always a struggle and then it just kind of came out more these past 13 years? How did it manifest? Like from young?
Hmm. I had occasional experiences, um, sprinkled throughout my entire childhood, that were just strange, like odd happenings, like weird experiences. But then after my first like near-death experience at 18, and then within about a year of that is when, for lack of a better term, like shit hit the fan completely, to where I was not really able no longer to acclimate into regular society. Whereas like in my youth and stuff, when those weird things and would happen and everything, it was just like, oh, wow, weird, strange, kind of scary, or and then back to normal kind of.
You were able to
Whereas,
function.
yeah, it was like not whereas now I uh I really am struggling with finding my place within society and within the collective. I
Mhm.
very much am still in the realm of feeling like and isolated, like outcast
Hmm.
of like, where do I belong?
Hmm.
Why am I like, you know, like where do I find my place, kind of where I'm accepted and appreciated for who I am, instead of trying really hard to
Yeah.
fit into like a box of what is accepted and stuff. Like, how can I be who I am, and then where can I go to find that to be appreciated
Well, let
and
me ask you,
valued?
have you started to accept yourself and appreciate yourself and come home to yourself in a way that you stop to smell the roses, so to speak, and appreciate the journey and you know, instead of keep striving, are you integrating and appreciating?
Well, yeah, I feel like that's been the everyday journey for a while now, because it took me, like I said, 13 years I was constantly trying to do like become normal. And then finally, just a few years ago, I realized, um, like what you said, am I starting to accept myself? That's been the everyday journey, since I finally like opened my eyes to realize that that's what I need to do. I
Yeah.
need to accept myself. I need to accept myself. I need to love myself. And I need to figure out how to do that. And I need to figure out who's going to help me do that. Like, try this and try that, experiment with that, and go here and do that. And, figure out who I am and and let that be okay. And, what I guess, my uniqueness, just letting that unfold and then finding where that naturally meshes or
Yeah.
melts into with others.
Well, and I think you're speaking to exactly the work of self regulation. All we're doing is working together in the most honest ways to unlock the potential and the
Mhm,
capacity and the realization that you've been an able agent of your own life. Now, for me, the greatest thing, the divine part, is very important that we recognize we're part of something. Like there's really nothing new under the sun happening here. Everything that has been created, I believe, has been here, whether we're coming from back to from the future or how we've been here, but it's
mhm.
now just aligning with the creation, aligning in a way that my vibration is honest and of acceptance and more. I'm aware, but just calmly active. I'm present and actively aware, like the animal at the watering hole. Like I could still be with the young. I can listen, I can hear, I can be part of and engage, but I could also react when I need to. I could protect my people. I can respond with all my might, but it's not knee jerk and it's not filled with worry. And there's not all of this resistance mentally inhibiting my pure, creative, playful, grateful potential to be alive and be here. And that's when you say, who's going to help me? I keep hearing, well, as you accept yourself more, as you sit in the stillness of what is, and as you open to hear divinity and you're a receptor and you know what feels right and what isn't, you have discernment. You're the agent. You're actually walking straight into the becoming without even saying you're becoming. Like,
Say again about how I'm excited about your series coming up, because back in 2020 when you were doing your free TRE, that you were doing that regularly and I was showing up at that time, I was in a relationship, I had friends, I was in college, I was living with family, and I was dealing with a lot of stress. And there, that blip in time, probably because I was working with you so heavily and had a more community and everything, I was dealing and juggling with a lot of stress of normal society, I guess you could say.
Yep.
And I wasn't buckling under all of that pressure because I was doing the TRE, I was doing the shaking, I was doing the meditating. And like I said, I had, friends, family, relationship, everything at that time. And but then things shifted for me where then I was living alone and then the relationship ended and then, you went off on your own, things changed and I went my way and then I was back kind of in the hole again. So,
But now listen, let's
I
reframe
went
that.
deeper and found more gold, let's say that.
Yeah, in the hole, but you went, it's like when the roots underneath the tree, we talk about the rootedness of the tree. There's so much happening in the depths, in the roots, in the winter, there's so much stabilizing growth, communication between the trees. There's so much not maybe conscious awareness of the work that's being done, but it's necessary. And you there's seasons for everything. We work together. You had more capacity, you maybe had more agency, you maybe had a little better coping, you were engaged, you were doing, and it, for some reason, as you were gaining those skills, some things fell away. And I believe they do that quite naturally. They fall away as they
Mhm.
should so that you can continue to grow. Just like we have to cut the tree and we have to prune and we have to, even though, oh, it looks so pretty and blossomed, but I'm still going to cut it so that the growth is better and stronger when the spring comes. So there is the acceptance of and the letting go, and there's not so much fear and that limited sense of security that you need. You let go because you know there's more. There's more. You might not have known it then, but look where you are now. You wrote a book, you're doing the meetup, you're doing things that, had you not had what we're talking about, and then the whole, then you come out. So I think that's a key thing to emphasize to people. Things change. The beauty of life, the most constant thing in our life is change and stress. And stress is a beautiful thing to to help us to move and evolve and grow. When it becomes chronic and perpetual and it's limiting, all right, that's where maybe we want to become aware and we tweak it and we are more, I say, recognize, respecting of it and redirecting of it. Right. So I think you understand that.
I think a lot of times I get recognize and respect,
Mm,
and then I stop there where I'm immersed in the observation of it and respect of it, but then I don't redirect it. Almost like being on a sailboat and just kind of like having my eyes wide and being like, whoa, this is a crazy ride,
yeah.
and but not taking the reins and being like, okay, I'm going to redirect or direct this energy in general.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get lost in just like being like fascinated or confused about what the heck is going on
Yeah.
and maybe like wanting to label it or just really wanting to understand it. Like you said, that logical thing in the beginning, you said the PDA or something.
Yeah, but I
Sometimes
think
I
it
struggle with that.
I think it's important, and the grace and the respect in that phase is to say, I'm not, there's nothing wrong. I'm not doing anything wrong. That this is the kind of natural break your body, your nervous system has learned to protect. And there's these phases, and we're all programmed in such a way that we're not ready all at once just to release the emergency brake. There's
Mm.
still going to be that. And then there's like a filling in. Like I say, let's say we're talking and I say, "Do you ever see a Prius?" And you're like, "No, what do they look like?" And I tell you what it looks like. And then you're like, "Oh my God, they're everywhere." I'm seeing Priuses everywhere. So that's where you became aware. And now it fills in, fills in, fills in, fills in, where, okay, it's saturated. You know what it is by now. All right, let's move on. So there's a new awareness to be gotten. But sometimes it takes some time for that to fill in. And we don't want to move, what, like we say, less is more. We don't want to move too fast. And then one last thing I want to say, you gave me a visual. To purchase your book, how do we do that?
It's lulu.com, like lulu.com.
Okay. Okay.
My name is Madalynn May Wolfe. According to my mother, my name means power. But hey, I'd prefer love. In this life or the next. What? Everything. I love you. I hope this helps. What I've figured out so far is that I mean no harm. When I find myself asking, what does something mean? I say to myself, it means what you make it mean. Truth is often misconstrued. Through the filter of my mind alone, it's hard to find and define, though it's as if the heart just knows. Perhaps all of creation is art, which is uniquely perceived. Creation, creating, and contemplating its fellow masterpieces. I don't know. To contemplate the self can be painful. The heart shows and the mind tells. The truth often getting lost in translation. Becoming one is to accept loneliness and to seek companionship, which can be terrifying. Having such a hard time loving myself, how could I expect it from anybody else? Would you love me? Could you love me? Would you? I would try to do all I could to show and tell that I am forever under the spell of love. Often disappointing myself, prioritizing myself has led to wanting to be held and to hold eye contact. For now, all I can do is give you pieces of my mind, unrefined. I went all the way up just to come back down, collecting diamonds for my crown. Metaphors, rooting, regrouping, losing momentum, friction, the plan, end this love letter with a rainbow feather. Seriously, the plan, stop.
Love it. Love it. It's exactly what perfect way to end. The truth, the heart is the true perceptor, right?
And interesting too, it's page 25. And when you said a nice way to end, I was thinking of, for some reason I thought to look at down at the page number. And
Yeah,
like last year was
2025.
2025 and now it's 2026.
Yep.
And like my group, one of the thing at the end, it says like let's leave isolation in 2025 and like embrace community in 2026.
Love it. Love it.